Hello and welcome to the CSN3M Mindset Monday podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the 3 M's: mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. This podcast is brought to you by the OptiLife Academy. Case Specific Nutrition has developed its very own do-it-yourself wellness course that allows you to work on optimizing your health and habits from anywhere with an internet connection. Be sure to check out the free trial at optilifeacademy.com or by clicking the link in the show notes below. You can use code Andrew at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. Today's episode of CSN3M will actually be a follow-up episode to the discussion last week where I discussed the diet similarities that exist between people and the diet similarities that more importantly exist between sort of the diet fads that are within our culture. I received a lot of feedback and engagement about this podcast. And I had some additional considerations and sort of some steps forward that I wanted to present. So as just a quick recap, last week I offered this observation that whether you were somebody that was swearing by ketogenic eating or whether you were somebody that was swearing by a higher carb, plant-based style of eating, that you were both not actually opposing one another, but were in fact doing the same thing, which is you were one, reducing your processed food consumption, focusing more on controlling meals, having better intentions with the quality of food that was existing. And then two, you were attaching yourself to a pre-built list of intentions that allowed your mind to increase its consistency, awareness, and intention. And so beyond that, though, I wanted to share some of the more exciting aspects of nutrition. It's an area of nutrition that I am personally constantly reading about and trying to stay up to date with, and that is the area of nutritional genomics. And so beyond just the attachment to, oh, this really clicked for me, this diet worked for me, there's definitely something beyond just like the psychological connection and the reduction of processed food. Don't get me wrong, the reduction of processed food is why most people lose weight. It's why most people feel better. It's why most people digest better. But there is something really interesting to look at in our dietary sampling. Nutrition research is very complicated, because most research, if we want to get really clear-cut answers, if we want to be able to prove causation, we need to basically keep people in a lab and micromanage them for decades. And obviously, we don't have the funding, nor do we have the willingness of participants to do those things. And so a lot of the data that we see is a mix of self-report data, is a mix of population-based data, and then case series and samples and small samples. But beyond that, we are starting to be able to, compile all this data up and start to see relationships. And what I'm hoping that I can help people understand is all of this has just led to proving why I started case-specific nutrition and why I called it case-specific nutrition. So for example, I have clients that start the ketogenic diet and their lipid levels, their cholesterol levels improve. Their HDL goes up, which is their good cholesterol. Their LDL goes down. Their triglycerides go down. Their body's inflammation goes down. They feel immensely better. And I also have people that go on a ketogenic diet, and while all this good stuff is happening, they're also reporting energy levels that are through the roof and that they have energy they didn't know they've ever had before. And then I have people that go on a ketogenic diet and they feel awful. They're sluggish. They feel low energy. Their digestion's bad. They're just not in a good place. And then when we rule out the difference in quality, because one of the things that's most important in keto is there's what people are referring to as dirty keto, which is, eating just like really, really poor quality, fatty food, going to McDonald's and eating the burger without the bun and calling yourself keto, versus what we'd call clean keto, which is people that are using really good high quality fats, nuts, seeds, oils, grass-fed meats, wild-caught fish, and, foods that are more natural. And so assuming the same is across the board, because I have personally seen this as a practitioner, I've watched clients follow a clean ketogenic eating style and report immensely different results with the same intake of fat content, the same control of protein, the same ketone strip colors, everything. And we have to ask the question, why is that? Why is it that some people seem to feel great or do really well on keto? And why is it that some people perform very poorly? On the other side of our carbohydrate spectrum, we have the plant-based or the Pritikin or the Dean Ornish or even the vegan diet, where it's a little bit more controlling or restricting in fat content, but focuses more on complex quality carbohydrates. And same kind of thing, assuming that we're comparing two people that are both doing what we call a clean plant-based, right? So they're not using their, this is an excuse to eat all of the crackers and snack foods that they want in the world because they're because they're now vegetarian. I remember one time I met a vegetarian that said that they have to eat pizza because it's their protein source, and all I could do was internally roll my eyes while smiling, because I knew that we had a lot of work to do. But anyway, on the plant-based side of things, I'll have the same thing. I'll have people that, are on like a Pritikin or an Ornish diet, which is a restricted fat diet, a higher carbohydrate diet. And you watch their lipid panels improve. You watch their reported energy and their mood improve. All these positive markers that are both found on labs and in sort of more of that subjective measure. And then the opposite can happen, where you get a group of people that their lipids are likely to be, are not likely to worsen if they're eating good quality, slow digesting carbohydrate. But reports of energy levels, reports of appetite control, reports of satiety, nutritional, deficiencies, all these different things where their body just does not seem to be responding well to the way they're eating. And the big consideration there falls within this nutritional genomics side of things. One of the things that we're going to recognize over time is that beyond just quality of food. So where, like I said before, this is us discussing the clean keto, which is a higher fat diet of all high quality fats, versus a low fat, higher carb diet that is all high quality. So no processed food amongst this spectrum. We are still going to see that one side does not win this battle. And that's why I say that this isn't an us versus them. This isn't which one's better, which one will win. And we've been trying to debate that in like idiots for 20 years now. Which is better, high carb or low carb? And when you take out processed and refined sugar, you're still going to get mixed reviews. And the reason for that is that some people process fat better than others, and some people process carbohydrates better than others. Some people make lipase better. Some people's digestive tracts respond to higher fat meals better. Some people's lipid panels respond better to high fat intake. Other people respond really well to carbohydrate intake. I know for me personally, over the years, I've been sort of a test dummy, and I've done higher fat diets, and I've done lower fat diets, and I've always been somebody that benefits not from a low fat diet, but from a controlled or moderate fat diet. And the amount of carbohydrate I consume really does not affect my weight up or down in any big way, and it really does not affect my cholesterol levels in any big way, which is really interesting to think about. But what I notice is that when I eat more carbohydrates, I always run faster. I have deeper sleep. My energy levels are higher. My metabolism feels like it burns better. I feel warmer. I mean, all around, I feel better. And I've done a genetic test that my company offers through Genetic Direction. It's one of the only genetic tests out right now that actually has significant research and also doesn't try to extrapolate research that isn't ready. It tells you what it knows. It tells you what it doesn't know, which is kind of neat. But I have, in the genetic world, my carb utilization is considered enhanced, and my fat utilization came back as below average. And so it makes sense that from a genetic perspective, it kind of confirmed what I've been feeling, which is I notice when I eat more than 70 or 80 grams of fat in a day, I feel sluggish. I don't digest well. I notice changes in my body I don't enjoy. And, if I restrict carbohydrates or I eat too few carbohydrates, I also notice negative effects. But if I keep my fat content somewhere in that 70, 80 gram mark, and I eat carbohydrates as my main fuel source for activity, my body stays lean, my energy's constant, my lipid panel looks great. My micronutrients are all in a good place. My body is in a good place. And so all that said to me, that doesn't make me feel like I need to scream from the rooftops that everybody should do what I'm doing. I'm a dietitian expert, or I'm a nutrition expert, right? I'm a dietitian. What that makes me see is I've found what works for me. across this spectrum. Part of my role as an expert is to help you find what works for you, or to help our clients find what works for them. And so if we can escape the tribism that I mentioned in last week's episode, and instead of trying to spend the time swearing that one is better than the other, or even worse, finding what is right for us and then telling everybody else that that's what they have to do as well, we would make it much, much farther in the nutrition research world. We'd be able to accept the fact that it's not which one's better, but it's which one's better for an individual, which then leads to the more important questions is what differentiates people, right? Why do some people utilize fats better than others and carbs better than others, right? And we see the correlations in the genetic research. We're seeing the genetic markers that are starting to predict that. And all that's doing, and I've said this to clients before, I went to school for 7 years so that I could throw a dart at a dartboard and hit bullseye really often. Maybe 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times. And genetic research is going to be the reason that I can walk up to the dartboard and put it straight in the bullseye. It is going to be the reason that in the next 5 to 10 years, as genetic research continues to improve and as access to genetic testing from a cost perspective gets better, I'm going to encourage every single client that walks in our door to have a genetic test, because that is going to be the basis of our discussion. That's going to be the basis of case-specific nutrition, and that's going to be the basis of your diet, you as an individual, not your diet in terms of how you restrict yourself, but your diet in terms of how you fuel yourself, how you pay attention to your food, how you prioritize your foods on a more frequent basis. And then we can spend the rest of our time trying to navigate the exceptions and all the fun stuff that life throws our way. So there you have it. Really exciting, front-facing look into how nutrition is going to be changing, but also a different perspective of the diet culture that exists out there, that there are diets that exist across the spectrum, and we do use and can use objective and subjective measures. At Case Specific right now, we're starting to use some of the, like I said, a little better, more rigorously researched genetic tests. We also will write scripts in labs and test things like adiponectin and leptin, particularly if we are suspicious of someone needing to utilize a high-fat diet. There are reasons why those labs actually can be somewhat predictive and can tell us what the body's doing and what the body would benefit from. Both ketogenic eating and intermittent fasting, both of which are topics I promise to dig into in more depth in a future episode. They are both useful dietary strategies when there is hormonal issues. And when I say hormones, I don't mean thyroid, and I don't mean testosterone and estrogen necessarily. I'm really referring to our metabolic hormones like our leptin, which is our hormone that makes us feel full, and then also revs our metabolism up, our adiponectin, which is what allows us to use fat and burn fat as energy, and then also our insulin, which is what sort of drives our carbohydrate metabolism, dictates intake of carbohydrates and use of them, and also as a result fats, and then can also trigger the body to either go into a storage state, which would be obviously not a weight loss state, or not. So those three hormones in particular are most relevant when we're looking right now at diet type, and then also barriers to things like weight loss. A lot of people that have weight loss barriers, their hormones, these specific hormones, are off, which is why at Case Specific we end up writing a script, checking these labs, and then moving forward with that. We use genetic tests if we are. I use them. I find that I use them more often for people that I'm suspicious of having enhanced carb utilization, just because our diet culture is so carb phobic right now that I often need to pull the genetics card to convince someone I'm right. But we have tools that we're currently using to, instead of debate which one's better, instead determine which one's better for you. And we are staying up to date at Case Specific with the cutting edge research so that we can continue to build on those tools and build on our awareness and our assessment so that we can better help you fuel your body to feel your best. So there you have it. I hope that was an interesting concept and gets you excited to learn more about nutritional genomics, as well as work on finding what fuels you well. I would encourage you to reach out to us if you have further questions. And I'd like to thank you, as always, for listening to the podcast. Please subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and share it on your favorite social media, tagging a friend or a loved one that needs to understand why dichotomous thinking, this or that tribism, does does not work in the world of nutrition. Make sure when you share this, you hashtag spread the health. And for more case-specific content, check us out on our social media at Case Specific Nutrition. And then you can also check out our media page and our blogs at casespecificnutrition.com. We will be back next week with another CSN3M Mindset Monday.